Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. This one took a lot of time. We have tried and failed several times with audio for some reason, well, various reasons. With Manuel Nubel, Germany won for the whole time. He started in 2015 and through 2021, just like I have. So we did 4 races together. We both started at the same time, and I've been wanting to do more of these rewinds with the X-Alps with legends like Manu, and so we did it last week. Didn't work. We tried a few times today. Didn't work, but we finally got it. So some really fun stories here from Germany 1 from Manu, and he's just had a little boy, and so he's also taken a break this year from the 2023 race. He and I'll be watching from the sidelines, but yeah, we share some fun memories, some fun highs and lows from the race, and stuff together and stuff apart, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So, without further delay, please enjoy this really fun talk with my friend Manuel Nubel, Germany 1. Cheers. Manu, this is hysterical, man. I'm glad we're both still smiling. We're gonna have fun with this, I promise, because man, we have bad luck with our recordings. We tried 2 years ago, that didn't work. We tried a week ago, that didn't work. We've tried all
Yeah.
morning, this isn't working, but now it's gonna work. It's gonna work.
Yeah, we are now professional recorders, I would say. Thank you for having me, and fingers crossed that this time we have a nice, happy end.
Yeah, and we were just talking about in the last attempt, talking about bad luck and how we have to embrace bad luck, especially in the X Alps. We've both
hmm
had some bad luck and some good luck. So I'm excited to talk to you about your X Alps campaigns. You and I have done the same. We started in 2015 together, and we both ended, at least maybe temporarily, or maybe not. Let's see. But in 2021, we're both taking a break this time. When we tried a week ago, I got to see your new little one. I take it. Let's catch everybody up before we get into the X Alps. Just catch everybody up with your life. What's going on, and why aren't you competing this year?
Yeah, I'm now a professional recorder, and I'm really busy recording interviews, so I have no time for training except. No, just kidding. Uh, no, yeah, my little son Linus is here, and I'm really happy that I made this decision to be able to spend full time with him and my wife Anastasia. And yeah, we have no family around really close by, so it's really. Wow, when I made a decision, I already expected something, but now it's even more time. But it's also on the same hand. It's so nice to have the little boy, and I'm not regretting the decision in 1 second. So I'm totally happy that I'm not under the pressure to participate in X-Alps and train for it. And on the same time, I always would have the feeling leaving my family at home and alone, and yeah, it can really take some nerves. And I wouldn't have a clear mind for training, and also maybe not in the competition.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think you've already learned this, just even though your son is tiny still, but man, they change fast, and that
hmm
was the big one for me. Fallon was born right immediately after the 2017 X Alps. In fact, we had a whole protocol for if Maddie was back home in the States, obviously, but if she went into labor early, my team had to decide, okay, we're going to tell him, we're not going to tell him the whole thing, and but they came over with me for the 2019 race. They stayed at Paul's in Austria, and that was really great. But I didn't get to see them, and so it was the training before the race, and then the pre-week, and then the race itself. It's 6 weeks, and that I didn't really get to see them much at all. And she's a totally different person after 6 weeks. So
yeah,
for me too, this time it was just, man, I don't think I can justify it. Just the time away, and the time training is immense.
yeah,
It's so much. So, well,
yeah.
I applaud that. I take it you're a maybe for 2025. Are you thinking, we'll see how things go?
Yeah, I definitely have this in mind, and yeah, I just thought also now it's the time also when he's so young and he cannot walk on his own, then it's even more, or it's different maybe, and but when he's a bit older and maybe yeah, could even join the supporting team. Let's see. I don't know in 2 years, but yeah, we are open for everything. And I still love X-Alps. Still love the training. I still love everything which is in combination with the application of the X-Alps. So I definitely have it in mind, and it's for sure just a temporary thing. But let's see how the world looks in 2 years.
I'm quite a bit grayer than you are, Manu, but how old are you?
Look on the side. I have also
Hey,
a lot of gray
it's
hairs
coming.
starting. I'm 35.
35. Okay, so that
Yeah.
was, you're younger than, I mean, my first X Alps was, I think I was 42. Yeah,
Mm.
42. So you got plenty of time. No problem.
I think so too. Yeah. As long as my body is not telling me other things, and I'm still motivated, and yeah.
Cool. Well, like we did this a week ago, so you know all this, but just for the listeners to remind them, basically what we're going to do is kind of go back in time and relive the highs and lows from your campaigns starting in 2015. That was, I believe, the first year they had the prologue,
Yes.
and we were still up in Fuschel AMC for the prologue. We had wicked weather. It was very very hot. It was, I think it was record breaking heat the first 3 days of the race, and in all the X Alps are kind of dictated, in my mind at least, by mostly by the weather, and they're each very different because of the weather. This was still when we started in early July rather than now it's more kind of earliest June. But the 2015 race was dictated by wind. We had at that time it was the longest that it had ever been. We still ended in Monaco. We hopped back and forth across the Alps a few times. I think it was almost 1200K, and the wind was really strong. Not the first couple of days was beautiful, and there was a lot of accidents. They don't ever really publish the bad stuff, but Toma came pretty close to dying. uh
Was
Tom
he?
was
Oh.
rescued out of a tree. Yeah, that he got his face
Mm.
ripped off. He
Yeah.
landed in 100-mile-an-hour winds. Michael
Yeah.
Vici through his reserve landed in a lake and almost
Yeah.
drowned.
Wow, that was scary.
That was
Whoa.
scary. His story
Yeah.
of that, I've
This
had him on the
explanation.
podcast.
Yeah.
Oh God, terrifying.
Yeah.
Michael Gebhardt just said enough, too much
Yeah.
wind. So there was a lot of wind, but a lot of flying. I think Kriegel got there in 8 days. I got there in 10. You were just behind me in ninth. And so you and I had a good race at the end. We're going to hear about that here in a little bit. But yeah, it was both of our rookie seasons, and I'd love to hear your a couple of highlights and maybe a hard time that went on. I know there were some bees at one point.
Don't spoil it.
No, no.
Maybe there
I've been
were
thinking
hornets.
about
I don't
that
know.
since.
Okay. Yeah, the good thing is if you record the things 2 or 3 times, you can afterwards remember things which you missed to tell the people. And just when you
Yeah.
were telling about the wind, and last time I completely missed this experience. There's this one day where I was seriously and not just like a little bit flying backwards with 33 km per hour. This
Whoa.
was this valley wind gap there next to Briançon area, more or less. There's a huge lake where it's normally a lot of wind, but at this day it
Em-
was crazy. But the
Ebram.
good thing,
That
like
big lake down by Gap. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man, I got slammed there. That's where
now
that was the
my
closest
friend,
I've ever been to getting dead.
I guess my friend Fabi Bull is now disappointed that I cannot remember the name because he's flying there, and I was actually also flying there afterwards, and he explained me everything how this works, this area. But yeah, this day I had no idea. I made a stupid, or like I thought, in my intuition was not really working there, so I ended up suddenly flying like crazy, like it was 1-2 kilometer backwards in the valley wind. But the good thing was, as you were trained at this episode 2015 with this lot of wind, I could see actually in this situation I was not even so scared because I could see a huge field behind me, and I could really judged by the days before this day. I had a really good feeling on how the wind was at the ground directly, so I could really judge that it was not so crazy at the ground. So when I was landing, it was maybe 5 to 10 kilometer backwards, and there was a huge field where I actually spiraled down in front of the field, so that I I don't miss it. And yeah, and then I thought I was the hardest guy here in the race, and then till I met you, and you told me like 80 meter per second sink. I thought like, no way, he's exaggerating. I asked Kriegel, actually, I didn't told you this story. I asked Kriegel and said like, hey, Gavin told me like 18 meters sink. Come on. I mean, he's a bit exaggerating, right? And he said me, no, at this day I had 25 meters sink. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, yeah, the day was crazy. Yeah, yeah.
People have heard that story, but that was, I mean, I remember sitting in Monaco, whatever, a couple days later, and we were all telling our horror stories, Aaron and Paul and everybody just had these nightmare stories of crazy, Aaron's of watching Andra almost get killed, his supporter, because back then you were allowed to fly together. But that day, and it was in Vars, and I was just having one. It was beautiful. It was amazing. I was catching up to the guys in front. I thought everything was perfect. And suddenly I'm in all this wind, exactly where you're talking about. And I was kind of trying to cross into Vars. There's an island there. And I got in there and top landed because I couldn't figure out what was going on. And when I relaunched, it was fine. And that's because I was in the lee. I didn't realize it. And as soon as I tried to get in through this coal, it just got batted out of the air. And it was literally, there was these ponds for snowmaking. And I thought, that's my only way to survive. I've got to get to the pond, and then I'll just full stall it into the pond. At least I'm going in the water. But later on, I looked at my track log. It was 20 meters down. It was just, I had almost a breakdown after that. I started crying. I was totally fine. I landed fine, but I just thought, man, this is too much now. This is too much.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Yeah, and about the highs and the lows, this was just a story which I afterwards thought, hey, it's important or interesting to tell. But the highs and the low, for sure. The low and high started before the race when I broke my patella just less than 4 months before the race. And I got this huge metal thing sticking out like 1-2 centimeters out of my patella. And actually, all doctors said like, forget it, the X-Alps is over for you for sure. And then I just said like, okay, it sounds really clear that I have no chance. It also makes so sense that my whole patella tendon was full with one metal piece, and and also more, not only one metal piece, even more. And so I thought like, okay, but I just want to make the best out of it. So let's try to take part in the race. And maybe after 1 or 2 days I drop out, but at least I have some information or experiences for the next episode to be better there. For sure, it won't be a bad thing as long as I don't damage my knee really strongly for further years. So I made this decision with my supporter, and then I ended up to reaching Monaco, which was, of course, absolutely dream. But before I reached Monaco, there was a nightmare again, which was the second lower, and it was really a piece out of many, many little things which went wrong. It started that I made a stupid decision really close. I could even already see the sea of Monaco. I was really good prepared and knew exactly my line, what to fly, but then there came cirrus clouds in front of the sun. So, and I thought like, I need to reach Gavin in front of me running towards the goal. And to catch Gavin. No, actually, I didn't know that I thought you were already in goal. But and then the cirrus cloud made like one terminal already super weak, and I need to get over a little col and to make it to the next valley. And it was a matter of like, maybe I was over the col 200 meters, and then I tried over the col to glide over there, and then suddenly I got headwind and sink. And it was a few seconds where I thought like, this will be very close. This will be super close. And then I thought, I'm not going to make it. But I still kept on pushing towards the goal. And maybe 3-4 seconds later, I said like, oh God, I'm not making it. And there's everywhere trees in this horrible landscape there of Monaco. So I turned around and realized, oh shit, I'm now really low for this plateau to make it even back to the terminal. And yeah, I had backwind and still a lot of sink. And I, within the maybe 5 to 10 meters, I sunk into the trees and really with a lot of impact actually. And there the nightmare began. So I hang in the tree, couldn't reach my supporter or very long time. Suddenly, then I pushed the emergency button on the Garmin, but just to tell them that I'm okay, but that I'm hanging in a tree. Then I could suddenly communicate with them and said like, "Hey, please no helicopter." Suddenly a helicopter was coming. And it took me, to make it a little bit shorter, 5 hours to make it out of the, like maybe 1 hour out of the tree, then on my own. Then to find a trail or something was really hard. There were thorns everywhere, and this little trails made out of maybe wild boars or pigs or whatever, where I just crawled my way to have any chance to reach my supporter. And after 5 hours we made it. And then after we spoke with the meet director, we thought like, okay, now it's just a walk into the goal. Gavin is anyway out of reach in front of me, and Nick Nanans behind me shouldn't reach me anymore. So easy. We just walk the whole night, and it will be easy. And I could even leave my glider in the trees and take another glider just as ballast to make the last meters. But then it was really the nightmare started. Suddenly my live tracking was not working, so a runner came and gave me a new live tracking device, which was still not working. Then in the middle of the night, we made the decision that I'd take a little shortcut, which I ended up completely getting lost, could not communicate because or I could communicate but had no internet. So I just could call with my supporter, and it was more like, "Where are you?" "Yeah, I'm here on the street seeing lights, and yeah, on the left curve." "Ah, yeah, there, it makes sense. So maybe you have to go right or left." And and then my Garmin backup device didn't work because there was an airspace bug hiding exactly the maps at this area. I could not recharge my internet because my provider had a bug and a malfunction. And to make it a bit short, it was really no acceleration, just like this. And then when I finally reached Monaco at we thought I will reach it at 1 o'clock or so. And then suddenly at 5 o'clock in the morning, after endless height meters, I reached it. And I thought like, "Oh, now I really made it. And all the bad luck is now gone. I reached the goal. Nothing can happen anymore." Till the next morning, when at 11 o'clock oh no, actually a bit earlier, yeah, no, 11 o'clock I could sleep till 11. And then I stood up, and the first thing what you need to do maybe after sleeping is to get a little bit lighter. And I just went there, jumped over like some huge rocks, and yeah, did my thing there for 2-3 seconds, and suddenly something stung me in my butt, and I was just like trying to escape, and so I just made my things next to the beehive. I got 3 stings in my leg. I just
the bees are like, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing to our home?"
And I was really like, okay, I'm not gonna fly down to the lake. It's to the sea. It's way too. I'm doomed, and it's too scary. All these things. I'm scared now. But in the end, I made it, and then the bad luck stopped. So finally.
I told you this the last time we talked last week, but I want to say it again because it was so funny. But that morning we got this great beta from somebody in Australia that was just watching us, and we did the same shortcut crap that you did. It was awful. It got completely lost, and Ben just got shredded because he got so upset at himself that we couldn't find the trail, and so he was just yanking these thorns out of the ground, and we finally got up to this launch. We had no water. It was hot. I was out of my brain. I had no ability to fly, and I blew it. The cloud showed the way to go, but I was scared to go away from goal and fly deeper into the mountains, so I tried to go straight, and I made it 5K. It was a complete waste of effort. And I landed, and the live tracking showed that I was 3K away, but the route was 14K, and it was 3,000 feet of gain. And I just broke down, and Bruce caught up with me, and he goes, "Okay, so here's some food, get going," and I said, "No, I can't, I'm done." And he said, "Really? You're gonna end 14K away from goal, you're done." And he got me going again, and that was good. But I was just so slow. I was barely moving up this hill, and about halfway up, he calls me and he said, you got to run, man. Who's in the air? He's going to beat you, you know? And I saw, really? Oh my God, no way. Because I wasn't going to catch Ferdy. Ferdy was already in. And so I didn't
Yeah,
have any reason to race. And
yeah.
so I start kind of jogging up this hill and I'm just pouring sweat and I'm so exhausted and my feet are trashed. And then about a half an hour later, Bruce called me again and he said, yeah, no, it's okay. You can go slow. He landed in a tree.
Yeah.
But I never knew all
Uh,
the backstory. I didn't know it was such a nightmare. That's crazy.
yeah. I'm sure you thought like, is he good? Oh,
Yes.
that's really
Oh, yes. That was the first thing I was thinking. Yes, for
yeah.
sure. Oh, is he okay? No, he's not totally.
Yeah. But yeah, in the end, hey, it was such a nice race. So many people also, hey, the people might not know the story from Stefan Gruber, who landed in the zoo of the Princess of Monaco, and
That's
he
right.
when he landed, he said like, "Oh, there's a nice field, which was actually airspace where he got the penalty." He landed there on the field in Monaco, and then an elephant came out of the bush, and he thought like, "Oh shit, did I miss the crossing towards Africa, or where am I?" This is what you're saying.
Oh
Seriously.
my God, I forgot all about that. That's
Yeah,
right.
then the
Oh my
security
God.
came in and locked him, or like took him away.
I'll be back to the
Crazy. Yeah.
race in a moment, everybody.
Okay.
Oh, it's crazy. Do you remember that before we leave 2015, a real highlight, you know, something that, I mean, obviously getting to Monaco was a beautiful highlight, but do you remember something else from the race, a specific flight or a specific moment that was really special you still think about today?
Hmm. Yeah, actually, I think the flight towards Monaco was the highlight because I was almost crying when I saw the sea, and I thought like I cannot imagine it. We made it the first episode with my broken patella against all the odds. Everybody telling you now you have no chance, and it was such in reach. Like, and actually we made it, but at this moment it was really emotional when I saw the sea, and I also I made some messages for my supporting team. Hey, we are gonna make it! Yes, I see the sea. I see the sea. Which was actually at this day I did a 100K flight or something really fast. But then maybe half an hour later I said like, oh, I'm hanging in the tree now. No sea right now anymore.
It's cool to have the dichotomy between the really high and the
Yeah,
really low on the same day.
yeah.
I didn't ask you this before, but you've mentioned that you really knew how to do that section of the course. What are your thoughts on scouting beforehand? Because I was really surprised before the 2015 race. Remember we did the media thing at Red Bull and I was sitting next to Kriegel and and I was just in awe. It's Kriegel. And we were talking before they started doing the interview and I asked him, hey, how much do you scout? How much do you go view the course? And he said, not at all. I don't look at it at
Mm.
all because if I look at it in June, it's totally different in July. And I don't want to have preconceived notions. And that blew me away because I had been scouting a lot. I was very nervous and I was trying to go everywhere I could. But what's your views on that?
Yeah, my view is similar. I mean, if you're Kriegel, for sure you have to say like he's like a decade old competition pilot. Like he's flying competition for decades before he even started X-Alps. Then he made like all these episodes. Like I can even compare to me. Like the 4 episodes I made X-Alps, I learned so much about the Alps, which helps you a lot. And I would say the same, like if you just go there once and you just see it in spring, and then you're there in more stable condition, for sure it can lead you to a different to bad decisions may even. So if you would want to scout it, I would recommend to do it 1 year early on the same time, but then you don't know the route, so it's really
Yeah.
hard. And just very short before exams, it's also you're busy with other things. So I'm more relying on asking people or looking maybe for example, this time in 2015, I studied a lot of the approaches towards Monaco, which were quite similar from former episodes. Like 2 3 years, I had the track logs, and this helped me, especially in this area, a lot
Mm.
to navigate.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's really the hardest part of the course in my mind, and it's like you said, there's nowhere to land. There's a lot of wind. There's a lot of sea breeze. It's
Stability,
complicated. You've got airspace, stability. It's
airspace,
and
exactly.
and you're exhausted. It's at the end of the
Yeah,
race. In
yeah.
a lot of ways. Well, we'll get to we'll get to 2021 when they changed the course, and that was for those of us. I think for those that hadn't been to Monaco, probably that was a disappointment. But for those that have, I hated Monaco. I didn't like ending in the concrete jungle, and I've been very vocal about that. But
Yeah,
it's
that's the downside for sure. But the upside was really, I mean, it's called Red Bull X-Alps, cross Alps originally. So you have to
sure.
cross the Alps. And yeah, but you're right for sure. Like once you're there in Monaco, after landing on the float, it takes a couple of hours and then you just want to go out
You want to go
away
home.
again.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so 2017 was the first time, I believe, in the history of the race that no one flew one day. Our first day was just dumping rain, and nobody flew that day. There was a lot of running, and first time I think that we went south of we went all the way down to Slovenia. And so the first time we made a move, immediately to the south side of the Alps. And so really interesting course and really bad weather for the most part. There was lots of good flying, but there was a lot of overdevelopment and a lot of storms and a lot of gust fronts. And so that was a much wetter X-Alps than 2015. But take us back to 2017.
Yeah, 2017 was really nice. I had a very good time with my team. Like it was really flowing and we had nice time. That's also
Same
always very
team?
important for me. Yeah, it was same team. Shini, Yossi, and maybe was Sasha there already there? I don't know. For sure, same team, but maybe plus one. I mean, there are always people coming and joining, and maybe, for example, I think this year Robert Blue was also there for half of the race, and we had really nice time, really showing, yeah, to race nice, but on the same hand to be able to enjoy it, making good decisions, and yeah, till the almost the end where I got this heat exhaustion, and yeah, we just decided that because yeah, it was not good for my health to continue with heat exhaustion there in the brutal heat of Piedmont, and yeah, so we just decided it's better for me to withdraw. That was, but on the other hand, it was also afterwards when we saw how the other pilots did after we withdraw, it was really not a nice experience anymore. You could not fly. It was very stable. It was full with
Really
mosquito while
windy.
walking. Yeah, windy and yeah. So
That
it
was
was
one
just
of the few times that I had quite a really bad start. We made a bad call on using the night pass the first night, and I was quite tired, made some silly mistakes early, and it was one of the few times where you all out front got slowed down by the weather, and we had kind of a chance to make some ground from behind a little bit, which was unusual. Usually Kriegel's out front and he has better weather the whole way, but it was really windy. That was
mhm.
I believe the first year that Benoit, only two people made it, Kriegel and Benoit, and then Paul was in Monaco but it didn't make pay. He made it to the beach, but yeah, it was quite a slow year, especially at the end, because everybody was just
Yeah.
trucking it on foot. But you had quite a neat. That was the first time I had seen, and maybe since then too, you had a really nice gaggle for a lot of the race. It was you and Ferdy. Remind me who else that was that Simon's first year too. Yeah, Simon maybe. Um,
I cannot remember exactly.
but you had a nice. It was kind of a cool. There was like four
Yeah,
or
there
five of
was
you that were doing a
Nick
lot of flying
Nanens, I
together.
think
Nick,
sometimes there,
yeah.
Meran, and all the time someone else. Sebastian Huber was also sometimes with me, but yeah, I think I made one really nice decision which I'm actually proud of. That's maybe my highlight if we're talking about the highs and lows. 2017, it was the turn point at Montebaldo Garda, Lago di Garda, and we made this huge push up there, the 1,800 height meters up, and the Germans were just they were already really good working around us, but not at Lago di Garda. And I knew also from scouting before and preparation that the other side, San Simone or Limone, or how is it? Not San Simone, Limone, or so. The other side of the Lago di Garda is very often stable, and also the sun was not shining perfectly in. And if this side is not working, you're running out of options. So you cannot even glide around the mountains in the nice direction. You cannot land because it's impossible to land and also impossible to restart. So I was up there with Sebastian Huber was catching up when I was waiting there, and there was Stanislav Meyer and someone else.
Oh,
And
Stanislav, yeah.
at Monte Baldo at the takeoff, which I know also from acro flying and other experiences, quite good. So we decided to walk. So we wanted to go to the one mountain further towards the north, which was higher, and there was a little cloud over it, and it was better from the south, from the sun. It was facing towards the sun better. So we said we want to go up there and start there. And then we thought about like making this like little glide towards this mountain, which maybe is like 250 meters in altitude. And there is like a landing place up there on the other side, maybe 1K glide. But then I spoke with my supporter and we said like, hey, it's a good thing because I think one or two, Stanislav and Sebastian Huber, they had already prepared their gear. So I thought like, hey, if I'm the first one, and they had other opinions, they want to go to Limone, and I said like, oh, it will work there. And I thought like, it's too risky. I'm running out of option if it's not working. So if I do the little hike more, maybe 250 meter down and on the other side 500 up, I can easily glide on the next mountain and I can even reach a terminal there, and I have a lot of more options afterwards. And it's also not so scary there because I think you were landing there. No, it was Gaspar Petillot. You too? Landing
No, I
close to the
landed in the trees. I just tagged the turn point up from the ground. I flew across the lake in the morning, hiked up, got the turn point, flew back across the lake.
there.
But by then the wind was howling, and I just stuffed myself back in one of those canyons on the other side,
Yeah.
and there was nowhere to land. There was nowhere to go. I just landed in the trees, and luckily
Oh,
it just came down out of the trees, and I could keep going. But it was really
uh,
scary, very
the,
violent. It was blowing 50 miles an hour. It was
yeah,
crazy.
I wanted to avoid this, so yeah. Then we decided, hey, if I glide on the next mountain, and also the landing places were just in glide reach, so I was a bit scared if I don't make it to this little gap in the forest, I I would have to fly really the completely wrong direction and even further down to find the next landing place and to hike up even more. So we said like, hey, come on, we have still the gear packed, so let's run down this 250 meters, trail running fast down, and on the other side up. And then we have two advantage because like Sebastian Huber had the gear prepared, so he could not really. If I would make it flying and he say, "Oh, this worked good," he would maybe follow me. And when we walked down, he decided to go to Limone. And when we started, we could terminal up really nicely on 3,000 meter over Lago di Garda. This was really the most impressive
Whoa.
moment. Yeah, and then I made a huge crossing and a huge flight. And the other one were stuck in Limone, and
Is
for a
Limone just
couple
on
of
the east
hours,
side of the lake? Is that
west
just
side.
the little town over the other side? Okay, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
on the west over the lake, but it's the southeast side, yes. And this
Sorry, west
was
side of the
a
lake,
good
yeah.
decision for sure. Yeah.
Ah, okay,
And
cool. And then from there, did you take more the southern route? Remember how Paul did it? He did way south in the little
now
foothills, and then
I
you
was
took okay,
north. Yeah,
okay. So
on the
Bellinzona,
high.
Locarno,
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
route. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Which was fast. Yeah, cool. Uh, let's see. That was the highlight. Low light was the injury? Was the having to withdraw?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That I
Exactly. Yeah.
tell me more about that. So it was just you were low electrolytes, or just you just worn out, or what
Nah,
was
I
it?
could not. The food and drinks were not staying inside, and I got fever and all this stuff. So heat is the killer. Then also for dehydration and all the stuff. And then we said like, okay, it's over now.
Ah,
Yeah.
and that you were kind of up near Monte Rosa or
Just
Matterhorn.
Aosta Valley, almost out in the flat. So there would have been
Okay,
just hot walking in front of me.
okay, got yeah. That was terrible at the end. Okay, 2019. As a reminder to those listening, 2019 was it was crazy hot and stable at the end of the race. The last few days just I mean, record breaking. We had this massive kind of stability come off of Africa, and the sky was filled with dirt and dust. And I remember walking through Chamonix. It was 100 degrees on the ground in the morning. It was crazy. And that was the same time that all those people top landed Mont Blanc. So if you could get above the stability, you were loving it, like Toma did. The early part of the race was nice and sunshine and easy, but I never had any wind. Everywhere we went, you could launch. There weren't really storms so much. The middle of the race, there wasn't any sun, but it wasn't ever. I remember 2019 as never being dangerous. It was just, we had interesting weather, but it was never. Most of the X Alps have been at times really pretty dicey, especially 2021. But we'll get to
Mm.
that. But 2019 was kind of mellow in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the only danger was maybe that you rip your gear off because you're so angry about the stability. Because
Oh
I mean,
my
on one
God.
hand, it was so nice weather, as you said, no wind, no a lot of sun, no thunderstorms, but there were also so weak thermals and so much patience was required. So yeah, like when we saw the forecast, we thought like, hey, in the middle of the race, hey, we will make it to Monaco for sure. Nice, nice, nice. We had a really good race. I felt really good physically, and yeah, I was in good position, I think, most of the time also this race. And yeah, so but then like 3 days before the end, there was this huge heat wave coming in, and like this was this day where even Marcus Anders he didn't make any thermal progress the whole day with full power sunshine in the middle of 3,500-meter high mountains. I did struggle a lot, and I was the other ridge, which I made progress luckily. But this was crazy, like stability wise. And yeah, this
Yeah, I
was maybe
remember.
my low, like this moment when I thought like, oh, this will be now really close if I don't, if the progress is so slow because of the stability. Now even Monaco can be in danger. So yeah, this was the low
This was
point.
the titless year too. I think Kriegel was the only one that top landed titless, which was that was the game winner for sure. That was game
Yeah,
over then. That night, that was an amazing flight from Davos up to there. But I think pretty much everybody did about 5,000 meters on the titless day. That was a monster. Holy cow!
yeah,
I got up there late in the afternoon. It was hammering snow and really windy and totally unlaunchable. And I got
yeah,
in the top of the gondola, area, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful place. I'm just going to sleep here and have the most wonderful night. And my supporters were going, you're not going to sleep there. You're getting off that hill. Get outside
mhm,
and wait for a
mhm.
break. And no, it's hammering snow. It's windy. It's scary. I don't want to fly. No, get outside. Go. And they
Yeah,
were right. I got off the hill,
yeah,
but man, that was a big day.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I did also 5,500 meters. I can remember this day,
Oh,
height meters. Yeah.
brutal. We started calling you the comeback kid right around then, or maybe it was I can't remember which, but you had tended to have slower starts and then really started moving well, and that was definitely one of those years. You had a great end of the race, and we'll get to 21 where you had an unbelievable finish, just incredibly fast. But what do you chalk that up to?
Mm.
How do you kind of pace yourself that you seem to get stronger and stronger as the race goes by?
Yeah, I think I just have not a very big problem to make decision even if they harm your ego, you know. So, for example, if I'm in a race and someone are running next to me and they're overtaking me, I give a shit because think, is this the right pace for me? Is this the right speed? Is it the right decision? And if they're overtaking me, I have no problem, and I'm really good in like keeping my own pace, I would say.
Hmm.
And so I still think the race is so long, and you can see it every time in every episode that at the end, very many mistakes were done by other pilots. And maybe it's not that I'm making, I mean, for sure, it was like 2 or 3 episodes, it was not working good for me at the beginning. And then at the end, I was extraordinary lucky. And at the beginning, I was extraordinarily unlucky, I would say. But also I just think that I keep my energy till the very end, because you still have a lot of opportunities in the last days to push out all the power you have left. And 10 days are long, or 12 days.
Highlight from 2019.
Highlight was the nice flight when we had already big doubts and we knew we need to do 2 very good days to have any chance to reach Monaco. And the first day, the day before the last day, I did a huge cross country flight from almost Saint-Hilaire I took the turn point Monteviso, which was stunning, together with Gaspar Petio. We were flying. It was such a nice thing. I love this, how we combined our forces, and it was so nice, the flying. And then even in the evening, the last terminals and the very last terminals, we made it almost till the sunset, and knew that with this huge 150-kilometer flight, we were able to have Monaco and reach the last day.
He is proof positive that you don't have to have a very solid body to compete in the X-Alps. It's remarkable. I mean, he's so slow on the ground. He's got such bad, his knees are worse than mine. And every time I've been on the ground with him, it's just, I can't maintain his pace. It's too slow. Like, okay, see you later. And then he always passes me in the air. He's such a good pilot. Yeah, that must have been beautiful flying with him. That's beautiful. I had never flown through Le Grave from Saint Hilaire. I crossed and then hiked back up, and then had a beautiful flight almost to Briançon, and then a gust front put me down. But that is an amazing. I want to go skiing in there. That's a beautiful part of the world.
I never had seen this landscape before, and I was never there, and it was really nice experience for sure. Yeah.
That was where Aaron Dirigati was flying through, and he was so tired he was watching YouTube videos in the air to stay awake.
Okay, I'm curious which one.
Yeah, right. I know. We want to know that. So before we go to 2021, for those listening who are rookies or maybe thinking about doing the X-Alps, after 4 campaigns, what do you wish you would have known in 2015 that you know now? What would you change in terms of training or approach or team or anything?
Good question. I think in 2015, I had not such an idea about how the valley winds and how also the protected areas are working. That's why I also made this huge mistake of flying backwards 33 kilometer, because I actually flew the full Venturi, which was maybe like on the line, but like on the shortest line. But afterwards, it's obvious for me that the wind has to go through there, and I had not such a good understanding, and I was actually even not so comfortable to flying in huge mountains. I can remember when I was there in Mata Valley, taking turn point Matterhorn, I was, oh my god, all these huge 4,000 meters mountains around me. Oh my god, the glaciers and everything. It's really breathtaking. So when I took the turn point, my mind was a little bit like trying to get out of this area again. But very often in cross-country flying, I think it's better to stay in the high mountains and to stay in the protected areas than to fly to the big valleys where the strong valley winds are.
Yeah, I learned that in 2015 going into Matterhorn. Everybody that went in and went back out like you do got hammered, and we just stayed high and flew to Verbier, and it was on. It was spicy. There was, I think Hansa and the Korean flew in wave that day. It was so strong, but it works. Yeah, you're right. That's good advice. Okay, 2021. Crazy weather, at least for many people. It was scary. Again, a bunch of accidents, a couple proper fear injuries. And again, they don't publish much about this, but some pretty scary weather, especially the day that Kriegel had his big breakout move. I was going the other way, and he said he didn't feel much firn, but boy, I was seeing some crazy strong south firn that day, and the clouds just dumping in, and it was pretty terrifying from my perspective. But you and I and Theo thought we were making a really good move leaving the Geisberg the first day, and man, did we have a bad first day. We were way off the back, but the comeback kid comes through. You had an amazing finish. So tell us about 2021.
Yeah, I mean, 2021 it started. Like, have you ever had this nightmares like from competition flying or even X-Alps, like having the nightmare that you missed the start or forgot your GPS, like real nightmare in sleep? Did you ever had this?
Totally, especially going into 2015, I had these just awful, "Oh my god, I missed the start," that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
exactly. I had this actually when after I participated, I had not anymore the nightmare so often, at least maybe a rarely, but before that, I had this very many times. And this was actually the start, like in a nightmare. Like everyone is flying away in really like we made this one terminal. We saw it in Geisberg. We soared up there, and then we found this first little terminal, which I thought like, oh, perfect. There will come a lot of more terminals. And normally, I noticed from my competition experience, it's always better to like. It's really really rarely to be one of the first. It's really rarely the best to be one of the first. It's more often good to have this little how do you say like
A
objects
little
in front of
mapping in
you.
front of you. Yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly. Just
people
people showing
mapping,
you
the
the way.
pilots flying and showing you the terminals. And then I didn't went with many people to go with this maybe 200, 300 meters over the Geisberg peak. And I thought like, yeah, there will come a lot of opportunity. And suddenly after this one terminal, when everyone, when the half of the group went, I sunk down with 3.5 meters and I just top landed at Geisberg. And I thought like because it's better than to even sink down further than the takeoff, and this would have been super scary to land at Salzburg back again.
Oh,
And you sunk even further, I think, right?
yeah, I got
I
way
saw
below
you.
launch. It was terrifying. I thought, oh, why didn't I top land with Manu and Theo? It
Oh,
was
no,
just
shit.
nothing was working right that day. That
I
was
think it was
terrible.
not Theo, it was Michael Lacher.
Ah,
Yeah, and
yes, right. Yeah.
I think still think Theo was actually, I think he told me afterwards he was like 100 meters above the ground when he left, like when
Oh,
the reached the next terminal, really really low. And yeah, so we end up landing there, and everyone made it up back in the next terminal, but we not. And then it took 10 minutes there to take off. Then we could fly, do another terminal, miss another terminal because it was still not high enough to go, and have to back to land up back there to take off again. And I mean, everyone is almost gone. And then finally, I mean, we left, but the conditions were getting worse and worse. We had no mapping pilots anymore. And so, I mean, in the end, it was not a huge downside. I mean, it was maybe to the leading guys, maybe 20K disadvantage. But I mean, all the decisions, I would still say it was not a bad decision, but it was just really unlucky that it worked out like this, or it didn't work out.
yeah, and it just got grayer and grayer. I mean, nothing was really working our way that day. We landed almost together, and then hiked up to that little coal and got all ready to go, and then this isn't going to work. Packed our stuff up again. It was just it wasn't very flowy, using a word you like to
No,
use at
not flowy at
all.
all.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Okay, how about was that the low point of the race? Was just the first day, or was there something
No,
else?
the low point came afterwards. Actually, I was struggling before the race already with some problems of sleep, which I actually solved just 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think to tell the people it's interesting. I think it was just a matter of electrosmog, like being sensitive to the cables inside the wall, which I figured out finally. And yeah, yeah, and I just had like for years actually the problem of not being completely recovered after sleeping, feeling really like not good. Even if I mean I slept the whole night, but I still feel like weak and not good. And it was especially 2021 in front of the race really hard, and this took also away my nerves. And I during the first day and the second day, I was puking a lot of the time when I walked up, or actually almost every morning, and I was
Ugh.
completely done with my nerves. I couldn't handle the easiest decisions actually, and so I was after day two, after the glide down, I was crying really badly, crying and completely down and destroyed. And luckily, my supporter and especially my wife came, and they were hugging me and just sitting there for half an hour. Even I knew that it was super nice terminal time. Actually, I should have rushed up, but I just said I cannot, I cannot. I'm so weak, and I'm so I'm not at the right place here. It is not the right place for me. I said all the time because I'm not I cannot handle it. And then they said like, hey, come on, let's do little steps, try little things, and try to eat a little thing, and try to just try another one day, stay in the race one more day, stay in the race one more day. And so I kept hanging from one day to another, and then it improved day by day, and I felt day by day better, and my nerves came back. And then in the end, of course, I made this incredible comeback, which I never dreamt to be able to catch that far in front again after being so far back. And
How did
yeah,
that
and
go? How'd you unlock that key there? What happened? Because I
what
remember
what
some of
key
it
do you
from the
mean?
live tracking, but well,
Uh,
I remember
yeah,
I was watching some of your, at night when I would walk and stuff, I'd watch some of your videos. I remember there was one landing, there was a lot of wind, and you were kind of landing backwards, but and I
yeah.
don't know if that was in the Aosta Valley, but you made this flight from there to Kronplatz. You had a huge flight at one point through there
Yeah.
that was just amazing.
Yeah, I think I did a lot of little good decisions since before Fish. There was one day when I reached Fish, I already made a good distance to all the other pilots who I started with this day. Then the next day at Dante Orge, I made little distance, but the big 2 days was for sure after Mont Blanc. I made this decision to run through Aosta, and actually I had really a lot of power then suddenly there. I was really running, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 Ks or so to be able to reach a takeoff, which was way better in my opinion, but it was a huge push. And also the takeoff was like my highest ascent ever. I think it was 2,200 height meters, so to just reach the takeoff only from the valley to the takeoff. And but we said, hey, this will have a huge advantage because we don't need to make crossings there. On the south side of the Matterhorn was this actually, the Monte Rosa Massif. And yeah, we made it to the takeoff in time, and I felt good. And I made a nice, strong flight around the Monte Rosa Massif. Battled through these crazy föhn conditions there in Macanagua, Locarno, and catch up with a lot of people in front of me. And then I landed at this day in this crazy backwind valley wind, which was not making a huge disadvantage to the other ones who made it maybe 10, 15 Ks further. And then the, the next day was the most important day where I took off next to turn point San Bernini. How was this called? Monte Plotny. How was this
Forget
called,
the
the turn point there?
Yeah,
The
I
Bernina
forget. It's the
Pass.
one
Yeah,
starts
I
with a
forgot it.
P.
Not Pittscorbridge, yeah, whatever, the high one there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I took off, and it was also not really easy. No, it was the whole day not really easy. And I took the decision to fly straight on the straight line. There were different options where also the pilots in front of me, they took other options. And yeah, it worked out. There was really a lot of dark clouds around me, not really threatening dark clouds. It was more like this water clouds where there was also rain showers, but I knew that they were not really dangerous rain showers. So it was a lot of instability in the air, but I could maintain to stay in the air, and yeah, and fly a lot of distance towards actually this day even Pronek to Kronplatz. And yeah, all the other pilots, they made little mistakes, and yeah, even I went from maybe 13th position to a 5th position there. No, sixth position. And yeah,
Did you
then it
top
was
land Kronplatz that night?
no, unfortunately not. I was there in the I flew the very whole day from start of terminals till the end. And in the very evening, I knew that because I took my night pass, because the next day it was over at 11. So I knew if I'm able to glide down from Kronplatz this evening, I have a huge advantage because then I can glide down and I can walk the whole night towards the goal. And then the next day till 11 o'clock, of course, I expected not that so much will be flown by this time, till this time. And so I was landing 2 mountains before Kronplatz, and then I pushed. I had to give a lot of power to make it up these mountains, maybe a couple of 100 meters, glide towards Kronplatz, and then make a full power push up to Kronplatz to be just in time. I think I took off at 8 40, and then I knew already, I calculated while I was running how much time I would need in trim speed to glide maximum time towards the right direction. And yeah, it just worked out perfectly. I was just maybe 1 minute before deadline, I was on the ground, and I knew that the others who are just a bit behind me, they cannot glide down. So this evening, of course, everyone took their night pass, but I knew it will not help them so much because they can, of course, run up the Kronplatz, but in the night you can just run down again and then run to this whole valley, which is like takes a couple of hours. So they have to wait up there on the Kronplatz till they can glide the next morning, and I could walk the whole night. So this is what I did. But then in the end, I actually had to also do one really difficult decision because I was actually under Krente, this Antholz Valley, and I was not sure with my whole team what to do because there was this huge no takeoff area in front of me. So I knew, okay, I could either run the whole night and it will be a 60 kilometer and I think 3,000 height meter or 2,000 height meter something to the next takeoff, which was also directed to the south and not to the east. And or I could take off, could stay there, actually waste my completely night pass and take off the next morning at Krente, which I know that it's a perfect cross country mountain. And this 40 kilometers direct line, which I run the whole night in 60-kilometer running, of course, can be flown by 1.5 hours if you take off in the nice takeoff in a good east face. So it was really hard, this decision, but then I thought, of course, I don't want to waste my night pass. And even if I'm stuck there on the other takeoff in the south side, waiting for the sun to go around to the south, and the other might fly over me, in worst case situation could have happened, then I still tried everything. That was my reason. And then, yeah, it was really nice experience actually with my wife, Anastasia. She's also trail running, and we walked or run the whole night and together. Actually, I was sleeping, no joke, like sleeping, walking, and having her on my hand. Like I closed my eyes, and it felt really like sleeping while I was walking in this night.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a
That's
good
pretty neat.
experience for us. And so we made it in the right time to this takeoff. And then while I was waiting there, because it was obvious that I cannot take off as early as the others, suddenly Toby Großrubacher glided down from this Kronplatz mountain and found the entrance at 8 o'clock in the morning, or even I think even before 8. It was so early. He found terminals and climbed up to Krente, where Paul Guschelbauer was waiting. And I could not believe my eyes, and I thought like, oh no, now these two guys, they were battling each other, will battle each other and pushing really hard to catch me. So I need to get away from this takeoff now really fast, I thought. But yeah, luckily Toby went landing somehow. He left Paul quite a bit after that, short after that. And yeah, I got airborne, found some really nice terminals, and I was really happy. And I thought like, okay, that's it. I think I will hold this fifth position. But then it was just half an hour till the deadline. It was really short before, but then I stuck in a strong north föhn, which grounded me, and I was clear that I cannot make any progress towards the north where I need to go. So in the air, so I landed and packed my stuff, and I ran like everything I could because Paul was really, really close and approaching me from other direction, and I just run this street up there with my team coming and helping me, maybe I think 6-7 kilometer till this half an hour was over, and Paul was coming really, really close. It was really spectacular finish in the end. So I just managed to
It was
get not overtaken again. Yeah.
That was a nail biting finish. I was watching you on live tracking, and I had Paul in 3D. The only time I've ever been able to watch that. Usually we don't have time, but my race was done, and we were in the camper and ready to go and come back for the party. And I was looking at it, just going, "Oh my God, he's got him! He doesn't have him! He's got him! He's got it!"
Yeah.
Oh, it was so
Yeah,
close.
it was a matter of one terminal or so but then of course he also came in this area where the strong North Wind was, and then everything. I think he told me also he was so happy that he could land when the race was over, because these conditions were so crazy there. Because also what makes X-Alps, in my opinion, so demanding is you have to go in one direction where you have to go, and not which direction you choose. So you just have to go towards the stupid north fin, and you cannot stay in the protected areas. And yeah, you're just pushing every meter how far you can get, and that's the difference to other competitions where you set your task where you want to be.
Mm.
Where it's
Manu,
not
I'm
so.
curious now with the little one on board, if has anything changed in the way you approach? Is it any different now? You know, if you did the 2025 race, would it be any different? Would you take any different level of risk than what you did back in 2015? And can you chalk,
I
if
mean,
so, can you chalk that up to the kid or to age? Excuse me.
yeah, good question. I mean, I can definitely say that I was always a person and a pilot who I really enjoyed my life, and I always knew, and I was not taking crazy risks. So it was even with speed flying or other things, I was always doing the things which I can really control. And if I have a strange gut feeling, I was often just hesitating and doing the chicken out decision, and not even sometimes I could not really understand, but I could not really explain why I was doing this. I was really at the beginning of my flying career, had a hard time because I had friends who were just like a little bit more equipped with bigger balls. And they were just like, yeah, they were just doing the things and they worked out for them. And I could not even explain why it should be dangerous. For example, trying to stall. Hey, it took me like 6, 7 years till I was always doing stalls, like 1, 2 stalls a year, 1, 2 stall sessions a year. But then it worked always out perfectly fine. It was a totally nice experience. But always when I tried it again, in front of doing it, I was so scared that I didn't do it. And I could not even explain why I should be scared, but I just was scared. And then I end up not doing it because I was doing hard to force myself into a situation which I don't like. But then this, on the other hand, this attitude or this feeling maybe protected me from situations of being too dangerous. Or so I don't know, but for sure I can see my thoughts already sometimes, even on normal tandems flights also, which I did in the past when Linus was already there, when I thought about him, which I of course didn't do it before he was there. So I imagine that I will be a bit more passive than
Mm.
before, for sure.
Mm. I've always kind of liked Tom Dorlado's approach. He seems to really just
Yeah,
take it as the adventure, and he's very pragmatic about risk. You know, he's just totally unwilling to. It's a weird one, isn't it? Though, because I find that the headspace, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, but the headspace that you get in during that race is not something I could ever emulate in training. It just doesn't. It doesn't come. I'm you know the you start taking risks that normally you would be really uncomfortable with, but you're not uncomfortable with it in the race at all. I've never felt like I've done there. I've gotten into situations like the one we were talking about in Vars in 2015 where it was really extreme, but it
exactly.
wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't that I was pushing it
taking
really
the
hard.
decision.
I
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
ended up in a really gnarly. I mean,
exactly.
it was a wonderful
Yeah,
recreational flying day. I was just in
yeah.
the wrong place,
Reclamation.
you know, so that could have totally happened just flying. But
Yeah.
there's there but at the same time, you know, when I'm training for the X Alps and purposefully going out on days that are really marginal because I know I have to train for the race and I'm really scared. And in the race, I can honestly say I don't remember ever feeling really scared. I have always felt like, you know, when it gets to that point, you're in this headspace of, yeah, this is awesome, bring it, you know. And you know, it's a funny thing, isn't it? I've talked to many others who have done the race, and they all kind of say the same thing, that they don't, you know, Kriegel has kids, and he feels like he's really got it. He's
Mm.
trained for it. He feels like he's not taking too much risk.
I mean, he's proving it for so many years without
Yeah.
major injuries. So that's the proof that he is doing it right, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would totally agree. In this situation where I really got scared, I was not pushing and taking this decision really conscious that I said like, I will fly now in thunderstorm. All the time when I was taking bigger risks, it ended up being completely controlled. But then suddenly it was also this 2017. Then I had to think about you because I had also 14-meter sinks there after this Monte Baldo flight, where I saw actually I do some things also in flying on my phone, communicating in WhatsApp, and I also looked up at home. I saw that there's a huge cold front coming on the north side, and also this cloud which I saw made me a little bit like really far away, but also over me there were these scattered covered clouds. And I spoke with my supporting team, hey, how is this cold front? It looks really strange. And they said like, oh no, it's really far away and only on the north side. And then a couple of minutes later, I suddenly got washed. I mean, it was a local thing, maybe. There was in the valley, it was just next to the valley on one ridge, and in the valley was maybe 40 km per hour wind. So not super crazy, or 35 to 40. I was just barely flying or standing actually. But on the side on this ridge, I suddenly got synced, like synced down with 14 meters. I never experienced something before, and I had to think, that is what was the experience what Gavin told me. To 18 meters, that's how it feels. And then in the middle of the valley, I had 3-4 meters climb, which also felt not nice because I thought like, hopefully there will be not coming more wind. And I anyway didn't do any progress forward, so I was just standing there, climbing a bit and standing in the wind. So I thought then I actually ended up spiraling down and walking. And so this was all things which happened suddenly, and you didn't expect them to come.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting catching up with Cody and at the Swiss turn point, the first one. I forget the name of that uh, beautiful place coming out of the Wharf
Which year?
Pass
Which
last
year?
year in 2021. What was the?
Fish. Ah, no, the
No,
first
not
turn
Fish.
point
Before the
was
Swiss one.
Sentis.
Santos, yeah, he was sitting there at the launch, and I walked up, and he just had this look. He'd had that terrible experience leaving Lermoos that a lot of people did, and big thunderstorms and hail, he just had this look of he was kind of done mentally. He was done. He just thought that was too much, and I've never reached that in the X-Alps. It's always been, I've always felt like it was reasonable risk, but when you look back, you think, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, the 2015, for example, there was one day before that was what I was mentioning that I could judge quite the wind good because 2 day before I was that was also very stable day, and I was scratching like I said it's kind of a toilet flush. I felt like I was flying really low in the valleys from valley wind, a soaring hill to another, and I just could not manage to get higher, but I just like was caught in this valley wind, and I was doing progress, but it was all the time in strong winds, and it was in really not landable areas. And one time I can remember where I was really gliding towards this a soaring ridge, which is was good in the valley wind. And I was so low reaching it, and knew if I don't climb, there's no landing, and the wind is so strong that I mean I was really reaching it by maybe 30 meters or so. Like I was 30 meters over the valley floor, and I knew it will work because it was so strong wind. But I knew if I get a lot of sink before I reach it and I don't reach the mountain or the ridge, then I have to land in strong winds standing, and there were obstacles all around me. So these situations for sure were way more nerve-wracking and scary than the next day where I saw, hey, okay, behind me is a huge field. I'm flying 30 kilometers per hour backwards. But I mean, I'm not getting blown. I was quite low already at this point. So I just thought, okay, just have to take care that I'm not getting blown over this field. I see down in the grass that the wind down there is for sure not so crazy that I get hurt when I land, even if I'm flying backwards. So I thought, okay, spiral down in front of the field, and then you just go on the brakes and fly backwards into the field. So it felt quite controlled, actually, even if it sounds
Hmm,
crazy.
hmm.
Yeah.
So many good stories. Manu, thanks for sharing for the fifth or sixth time now. I think this one worked, buddy. And but I appreciate it. It's great to see your smiling face. It's great to relive all these special moments, and excited for you and your new family, and
Mhm.
excited to maybe see you in 25. Thanks, buddy. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you as well. And it was always a pleasure. So we can do it also several more times with you. It's always nice. It's always good. Actually, when we didn't do when the recording was not working, I thought like you can never tell it again, like so authentic or so how you feel when you do it, tell it the first time, but it's never getting old.
It never gets
Yeah,
old. It's a fun race. Thanks, bud.
yeah. Yeah, thank you too, and we wish all the other pilots luck. I'm really
Yeah.
curious how it feels the first time to just watch it in live tracking and have a lot of friends who I'm cheering, and yeah.
Oh, I
So
know. Is it going to be torture or is it going to be fun? I don't
I'm not
know.
sure about that, but yeah,
Me neither.
for sure
I've
it'll be
thought a lot
exciting.
about it. It's going to be
Yeah,
exciting. It always is.
yeah.
Thanks, man.
If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do, and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.